Hello, this is Dr. Mike McKinney. I'm president of Promise Christian University and Promise Broadcasting Network, and we're very happy to welcome you on the show today. And we're very delighted to have some very special guests on the program, and that's Jeff and Carol Shelton. Welcome to Promise Broadcasting Network here. And
it's good to be here.
We're finally on the air with the Promise Broadcasting Channel, and I believe you're one of our early guests on the new station, so we're very delighted to have you both here today.
Oh, well, thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Oh, I'm glad. And tell us about your ministry, the name of your ministry, and some things you're doing today that I'm hearing some very exciting things that you guys are involved in.
Well, thanks, Mike. We live in Southern Oregon when we're home from Israel. We have a place also in Caesarea, Israel, that's called the Caesarea Villa. That is an established place for teams of people to come and work with Holocaust survivors, which is a tremendous ministry that has opened up between Christians and elderly Jewish people these last few years. It's going to be a small window of time because of the age of the survivors. Yes. We're talking about another 5 years, but the impact that Christians now are having with the survivors in the land of Israel is unparalleled. It's a wonderful thing. In the meantime, we're home now. We're doing some fundraising for the survivors. Many of them live in poverty. About 43,000 of them live in deep poverty in Israel. Of the about 189,000 left, they're dying at the rate of 50 a day now. So we're losing them. Wow. Yeah, we're losing them quickly. But the opportunity is, like I said, unparalleled. When we're home, we live in Medford, Oregon, just over the border.
That's a beautiful place.
Yes, yes. In fact, we said you should expand, maybe have a branch studio in Southern Oregon. We have a lot of interest there.
Well, it sounds very, very interesting. I like that.
We'll have to think about that.
Okay.
And there, actually, we have a 50-acre ranch called Cascade Ranch. It's a Christian conference and family retreat. It's used kind of half and half by many people that are having family reunions. It sleeps about 60 in beds, in rooms, and it's just a couple of miles off of the I-5 corridor, but yet it's out in the wilderness, and it's a wonderful place. We've had, in fact, a number of ministries and so forth from Southern California use it because we open it up complimentary for pastors and church leaders to get away and spend time with the Lord.
It must be beautiful.
So, yes, and Carol runs that.
Oh, Carol, that's great. How long have you been running that whole program there now?
We transitioned into a retreat center in 2007.
Oh, so very good. It's been ongoing for some time now.
Yes. Yes.
Well, you must enjoy doing that too.
It's fun.
I bet it is.
It's good.
And how did your ministry get started working with Israel? Because you guys are doing a tremendous work in that country, and how in the world did that get started?
Well, it started about 35 years ago.
Oh, my goodness.
And
you guys look so young. I find that hard.
We went on a once-in-a-lifetime trip in 81, and that began our love affair with Israel, and our passion currently is really with the Holocaust survivors.
Oh,
it's a short, unique opportunity to bless them in their later years.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And do it in the name of the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I imagine that you've had some wonderful, you can have some wonderful testimonies there.
Well, before we went in 81, I had not been a believer all my life. I came to know the Lord in my 20s, and I was kind of a Missourian in a sense. I kind of wanted a show-me experience. So the idea of going to Israel and seeing the roots of the Bible and the stories of the Scriptures was of great interest to me. And so we saved up our money. We were both ordained ministers and pastoring here in California, in Bakersfield and San Luis Obispo. And we're able to go that one time, and the Lord used that to kind of rope us into doing more than just that one visit. And we became involved in running the National Youth and Children's Camps during Passover. During the Feast of Tabernacles, we were part of the original departmental team of the development of the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem, and worked with them for 28 years. Until a lot of those children grew up. They proliferated out through the nation of Israel, started youth groups and children's ministries, and we kind of worked our way out of a job, Mike.
It was a good thing.
It was okay.
Yes.
It was a good thing. It was
Yes.
it was good to go back now and see the fruit of that. And
Great.
And see those kids that are now 35 years old. And
Right.
they're involved in ministries and humanitarian efforts throughout the country.
Wonderful.
And it kind of, it scares you a little bit when one of them has been in the Mossad, which is, it's like the CIA.
Oh, sure.
And we
Israeli intelligence.
Yeah.
And we asked her, Shoshi, what do you do? And she said, well, I'd tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Of course, it was nothing
Didn't really
personal.
wanna know.
we remember, changing her diapers
My goodness.
couple of decades before. But it just the fruit of that work with children. And then suddenly the Lord turned a leaf in our life, turned a page.
Okay.
And we moved from working with the very young to the very old. And it's been a real adventure. I think the unique thing for Carol and I is that we had always kind of scraped to get by, and we inadvertently, I would say, were blessing Israel and didn't really understand the scripture in Genesis about I will bless those that bless Israel.
That's right.
We hadn't really, I guess, embraced that verse personally. And then over a period of time, as we would come home from Israel, the Lord would bless us with property. And one of the first properties was a home for kids that we ran for a number of years. We bought a home for $4,000. A lady, an obscure lady in the church, walked up to us and said, "Would you like to buy a home?" After I'd prayed a couple of nights before and said, "Lord, give me a home for these kids that don't have a home." Wow. And she walked in the office 3 days later and said, "Would you like to buy a home?" And I said, "No." She said, "Not even for $4,000.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, "You know what? I'll find the money."
That's right.
And we opened that first home up for kids.
It's miraculous.
And later on, the Lord gave us this ranch. It was a $3.5 million center with two 8,000 square foot lodges, lakes, and recreation rooms, and basketball and tennis courts, and a volleyball court, and a chapel. I walked into a situation where I was able to buy it for $148,801.10.
That's amazing.
And
Amazing.
it wasn't even my money. And then the Lord
Borrowed.
and then the Lord provided the money to pay back the people. And then, not too long afterwards, we donated it to a charity called iCare. And not too long after that, through another set of circumstances, we were given about a $7 million ranch along the Rogue River with 1.5 miles of waterfront.
Fantastic.
That we still have. It's now being used for, it has been used for a men's ministry, a training center for men who basically never learned how to work in their life, and also a place that they could be discipled. That's kind of in transition though now.
Yeah.
We're not sure its next status. But it's a great place to go if you come to the retreat center to go salmon fishing. Mike, when you come up.
It has to be beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
And so and then we gave it away to charity too.
Oh my.
And so as we received these things, we just felt like the Lord wanted us to continue to give them back. Yeah. And He has cared for us all these years. We have, I can't begin to explain how we live, but we...
Obviously, you guys live by faith.
We do.
Yeah.
It's a great adventure.
Yes.
And a privilege.
Yes.
Really. But, I think you have to keep in focus that really you're just a steward.
That's true, isn't it?
And it's the Lord's money, it's His projects, and you get to be along for the ride.
That's wonderful. But it's an exciting ride, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. And so right now, you just recently been to Israel recently? Is that right?
Well, it's been a while. I became quite ill over there. About a year and a half ago. I contracted gangrene, internal gangrene.
Oh my!
And went through 4 surgeries. It was a miracle that I got home and was actually saved from. Well, actually didn't die. It was just an odd thing where I contracted a bacterial infection in my stomach, in my upper GI, just when I was really run down. Normally it wouldn't probably have done what it did, but so I went through 4 surgeries and recovered by the grace of God.
Oh.
The doctors,
and you look great now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't know I looked that good.
You do.
It's a good day.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So I've been recuperating from that, and then we've been developing a funding program to help these survivors, because these survivors, many of them have to choose between having heat in their house, having food, or getting their medicines.
I'm sure at the end of the program you could give your website and whatever things that you need you could share with our audience today too.
Well, and I appreciate Promise Broadcasting for doing this, because the word needs to get out. There are, needless to say, I'm concerned, we're concerned because of charitable abuse, monies that do not get to Israel that supposedly groups promise to get there. Many of them have jumped on this Holocaust survivor bandwagon because it's a way to raise money, and it's been a concern of ours to see the other end of the spectrum, where the money, or if the money is actually getting there to help them. And these are wonderful people. I might just tell you that in terms of what's happening with them Christian wise, in terms of their Christian interaction as Jewish elders, as kind of the matriarchs and the patriarchs of Israel, numbers of them have really drawn close to Christians. They have a very amiable relationship with Christians.
Yes.
They want us to pray with them. They want us to sing songs with them.
Oh,
they like to have their pictures taken with you. They like to eat with you.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, we don't like that.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
They like to eat together.
Really positive interaction.
Oh, cute. I like that. Yeah.
But when I did ask them, what is the magnetic part of you drawing close to Christians? I remember we were in Irad, down south near Sodom and Gomorrah. That doesn't sound real, but we really were down near Sodom and Gomorrah in a desert city in the Negev, meeting with about 200 Holocaust survivors. And the one Russian survivor that I was speaking to, Alexander, I said, "So what has caused you to draw close to Christians? What is it that the message that Christians have that is so of interest to you?" And he said, "Well, the reason being is that 65 years ago, Mike," this is what he said, 65 years ago, there were these people with this light in their eyes, and they came to us, and they fed us, and they hid us, and they protected us from the Nazis.
Oh, my.
In light of the fact they might lose their own life. And 65 years later, these same people with this light in their eyes are coming to us and singing songs with us and loving us and praying with us and eating together with us and spending time with us. Because survivors right now, the most key thing that they cherish is people spending time with them. It's relationships. They're not looking for money. They need money. They never ask for money. In fact, if you go to their home, we should be bringing food to serve them. They put food out on the table for you, and they're living in this minimum kind of thing because of their tremendous ingratiating, hospitable spirit. So these people are, I believe, one of the unique opportunities Christians have to minister today to Israel and to the Jewish people.
Beautiful.
And it's really happening. But there needs to be more people from America that will awaken to this opportunity and go to Israel. Maybe stay at the Caesarea Villa.
Sure.
The reason we opened up the villa is so people could go there and stay inexpensively, because it's
a guest house for small
It's a guest house.
Yes. Oh, how beautiful.
And so they can stay there at a minimal cost. The villa holds about 20 people, but we've opened up the whole back of the villa into this area where there's a pergola and areas where Holocaust survivors, 15 or 20, will come over in the evenings a couple of times a week, and we'll barbecue for them and pray with them and do all those things I mentioned before. For me, it's surreal every time we do this.
Sure.
It doesn't seem real. One of our favorite organizations, which you're familiar with, that really has benefited the survivors too, is Dudley Golf.
Yes.
And Israel Food Outreach.
Yes.
They're doing a tremendous job to bring food into the country to help support the survivors.
And quilts.
And quilts too.
And quilts.
We need about 50,000 quilts.
Right.
But if I break that down, if we could just get 1,000 a month, that would be 50,000 sounds.
It's really fun to be. It's fun to be on the end of giving out things.
Oh yes, sure.
And it was interesting. There would be quilts, some orange, some really unique color schemes, and as we were going around to the homes, and here'd be this sweet little lady, and it's cold in Israel in the winter months. The stone houses, and they don't have central heating like we do, etc. So it's really cold, and the color scheme would match. It was fun,
cute.
And but it especially meaningful because it's handmade. It's representative of people putting time and effort into it, and then it's a constant visual of represents the love,
right?
And of course the physical comfort that it provides. So.
It must be a joy to see their face or their countenance when you present that to them.
Yeah. They're in tears.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate what Dudley Golf is doing too. I think it's just marvelous, the Israel Food Outreach Ministry, and you guys working together like that. I think it's fantastic.
Well, and prior to this this program this morning, I think it was really interesting talking to you, Dr. Mike, about one of the key things we're concerned about is charitable credibility.
Right.
Because there is so much misuse. If you're talking about Israel Food Outreach, you're talking about a very credible financial program. As far as financial, people need to know that their money is really getting to where it's supposed to go. There's a minimal administration cost, but I think that charities really need to be careful in terms of this day that we live in terms of their credibility.
We have to really use wisdom, don't we, Jeff?
Well, and I think what you're doing, Promise Broadcasting, from what I understand, this is a very credible ministry.
Thank you.
Along with the university, and we just talked about this wonderful idea of. Because I'm on the board, I'm one of the executive board members for the University of the Holy Land in Jerusalem.
My goodness.
We're now excavating the front part of the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem. We're digging down to the 3rd century Byzantine church with the hopes that we can understand a little of the structural dynamics of how
Yes.
things were laid out back during the time of Jesus, so we can
my.
maybe better identify the cave or the caves around that particular area where Mary and Joseph stayed overnight. We're also excavating Tel Rehov, which is we have located about a year and a half ago with a partner Israeli archaeologist, the home of Elisha the prophet.
Oh my goodness!
And this is a unique
That's
find.
exciting, isn't it?
But the exciting thing is when we talk to you about the idea of could we work out a sister practicum program where students from Promise
Yes.
University could connect with students at the University of the Holy Land
Marvelous.
and go and actually be on site, not only seeing the biblical apologetical dynamics of the history of the Bible, but also experience in
Yes.
discovery. Because discovery and research today in a biblical context is very important in the ongoing affirmation that the scriptures
That's
the
correct.
scriptures are
Right.
true, whether it be the Dead Sea Scrolls, which the University of the Holy Land is very involved
Very involved in that.
with the Dead
yeah.
Sea Scrolls. Dr. Fawn is one of the primary scholars that works on the scrolls. His wife was the executive assistant to the Dead Sea Scrolls Foundation director, and Emmanuel Tove, Dr. Tove. And so the credibility of the university there in terms of a tremendous biblical venue for learning
Yes.
is it's not surpassed by anybody. But to join
Yes.
in would be it's an interesting thought.
I'm very interested.
It's an interesting
Oh,
thought.
it is. Now you got me excited here today.
Yes,
and
we could have
I
some.
think something can be worked out. I'm
Well,
sure.
I think
right.
I think there are so many students that would probably like that on-site experience in a practicum or a short-term study program.
I like the sound of it. I really do.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got me excited here today.
We need to do it.
Great.
So-
Well, Jeff, that's great. And what in the next few minutes, what would you like to see done now at this time, at this juncture, with the ministry that God has placed into both of your lives? What would you like to see the Lord do at this point? What do you feel?
Probably the urgent thing in terms of what we do in Israel, the urgency of the survivors is this 5-year window before most of them have passed
Before
away.
they pass on, yeah.
Wouldn't you say, Carol?
Absolutely. And we work with a network of ministries. I feel like it's important to be, I guess, a network of viable ministries.
Yes, that's right.
Lots of hands-on. If people can go and interact with the survivors, that's great.
That'd be wonderful.
If they can't go, but they can send money,
Send somebody in,
then
yeah.
there are believers in the land
sure.
who can help distribute, and of course speak the language.
Yes.
Languages. A lot of Russian immigrants are the most needy,
Yes.
and Russian survivors, I should say, and so at either level, it's
That's
beneficial.
Great. That's great.
Why don't you explain a little bit of why the Russian survivors are in such a difficult situation?
In more need.
Yeah.
You primarily had 3 groups of survivors: those that were in the ghettos, those that were survived the camps, and then what they call the evacuees, who actually fled for their lives. Had to get up from the dinner table and run out the back door into the forests, etc. And a lot of the evacuees ended up in Eastern European countries that were behind the Iron Curtain.
Oh.
So they could not immigrate to Israel until the Iron Curtain fell in the 90s.
Oh, I see.
And so as they immigrated to Israel, they were older. And of course, there was a flood of immigration from the Ukraine and Russia,
all those countries,
and all those Eastern Bloc countries in the 90s. And Israel had a huge task assimilating them, and so not being able to speak Hebrew, being older, it was very difficult for them to get jobs. And so they kind of fall between the cracks. They didn't get there early enough to be eligible for some of the Holocaust survivor benefits. Russia, of course, does not give them a stipend like Germany does.
I see.
And so they just, on every front, the Israeli government does help with housing. But like Jeff said,
but it's a minimum, right?
The housing is adequate, but then they're in the throes of determining, oh, well, do I spend, the little I have on food or heat or the meds?
Right. Yes, and I think
those are hard choices.
Hard choices. And, Jeff, in the next couple of minutes that we have left on the air, why don't you give your website and share with our audience? And I know we've all been touched today by what you and Carol have shared about Israel, the survivors, and your own personal ministry, which we're so very impressed today. Share your need to our viewing audience today. Would you do that, and your websites and so forth?
Well, I want you to. I want the folks to know that we're not promoting our own ministry.
No, I understand.
In fact, we're really moving to working in a consortium of ministries, so that there's more credibility, and that the audience can know that we're being accountable to one another.
Yes.
Because of I think that's a weak area in the area of charities today. The public doesn't know where their money is going. I would say that. The key thing would be to pray for the survivors because of their openness. We have a short period of time with them. They do need money. We're looking at, if I was to tell you how much money we needed, I'll tell you how much money we needed.
Sure.
If we had the money we needed to provide for the ones in deep poverty for the next 5 years, it would take $1.123 $0.1 billion the first year to just give each one of the ones in poverty about a $300 extra stipend a month.
Right.
It would cost almost $400 million.
Wow. We have about a minute left. So.
Okay, and that.
So the website is.
But the website is the ranch website or the iCare website is iCare@info.org, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's .com or .org. But the best way to contact us would be probably through Cascade Ranch.
Cascade Ranch.
.org.
Okay.
Or they could email me directly at jeffshelton@minister.com, like a church minister.
Right. Right.
Okay. There is an iCare email, which is icare@post.com.
Well, thank you. We're so glad to have you both as guests today on the broadcast. You've excited us, and I know we've challenged the audience today with this wonderful ministry of Jeff and Carol Shelton. We want to, those of our viewers today, I know our hearts have been touched by their great ministry in Israel, especially to the Holocaust survivors. And we appreciate the fact of their ministry and what they're doing, and the outreach that they're involved in, not only here at home, but especially in the land of the Bible, the land of Israel. We appreciate all of you tuning in today to Promise Live Broadcasting. And we're a new station on the air now and through Promise Christian University. And we're delighted to have all our guests, but we're also delighted to have you as a guest, our viewing audience. And we're asking that you continue to view these programs as the days go by. Again, I want to thank you very much. This is Dr. Mike McKinney. And I want to thank you so much for viewing today. God bless you, and we'll see you real soon. Thanks again.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.